Life with RUZHOFF, my lovelies, inspiring you to live an empowered life. Today, we're going to talk about divorce from a man's perspective. Before we even talk about divorce from a man's perspective, let's keep in mind 90% of men will never file for divorce because, again, men don't like stress, men like routine and like keeping things the way they are. But in the eventuality that a divorce takes place, let's tackle it from the perspective of the man, what the man goes through, how the men experience divorce compared to women, how society treats them, how it affects them, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, most men will not divorce, unfortunately, out of selfish reasons because they want to be comfortable. And then, considering that men are most of the times the providers, they don't want to go through the financial stress of a divorce. So, it's selfish, really, why they will never ask for divorce, not because they love you, but because they don't want to change things. They like keeping things the way they are, as long as they can still have their cake and eat it. So that's why actually it's very common that it's the men who will cheat, like marital infidelity, compared to women, because they'll stay in a marriage that they're not happy about as long as they don't get to lose certain things. But that aside, it is important for me to also look at both sides, considering this is a social empowerment channel. In most cases, when a divorce takes place, like I said in my divorce story, it is the men that are never prepared for it. Again, either because they believe the marriage is okay, they have a different perspective, or they wanted to have their cake and eat it all. They wanted to stay in a not so happy marriage, still have an affair on the side, and let their life go on. So that most of the times, the unhappy ones, the uncomfortable ones, the distressed ones, when a divorce takes place, you know. Unfortunately, we live in a society that is taught men right from childhood to always be strong, to never show emotions, to never show weakness, to never cry. So, what happens in the end? It is the men that suffer the biggest mental damage. I'm not saying women don't, but men do. Again, because we women have our circle of friends. You know, women, we talk about emotions. Even if you have just one friend or your parents or your siblings, you can talk about emotions, you can talk about how you're feeling. In this case, men don't. You know, when they're sad, they'll go out, drink, or even just isolate themselves, become alcoholics, do drugs, maybe even damage themselves, because again, men don't talk about feelings, don't talk about emotions, even when they have friends. So we have to keep in mind that divorce takes a mental toll on men more than women. It could be for good reasons, maybe because they're still in love, but mostly also for selfish reasons, again, because like I said, they're the providers. A divorce is never easy. You go through a divorce battle, they have to pay alimony, they have to pay for child support, because again, like I said, most of the times they are the main earners of the family. But it's important to keep in mind that much as when a divorce takes place, the focus is always on the woman, and everyone is like, oh, probably he cheated. It is not fair, because like in my case, it's me who asked for divorce, who filed for divorce. So you always have to keep in mind that it takes two to tango. It takes two people for a marriage to work. So we as a society have to make sure that we judge men not so harshly. I mean, it could be your son. Just imagine if that was your son or your brother. So always keep in mind it takes two people to make a marriage work. I'm not saying there are not cases where the men are completely responsible for a broken marriage, you know, due to maybe abuse. And when we talk of abuse, it's both sided. There are some, I mean, that are abused in their marriages. So all I'm saying is we have to keep a broader, open perspective, just like we are here, social empowerment. It's never just about just one gender. On top of that, men struggle more, again, because they never go like for therapy, you know, because they'll be considered weak. But I would advise any man out there that is going through a divorce or has gone through it, or you have a friend that is going through a divorce, support them, listen to them. Even if you go to the bar, try and talk to them. Just ask them, how are you feeling? How is it working out? You know, don't just laugh it away and then let him go home and drink his sorrows away. Men, it's okay to go to therapy. You know, you can do therapy, you can do a hobby that will really help you go through that period of the divorce. Personally, drawing back to my own example of the divorce, I noticed that men, for example, no one thinks about that, but they also suffer the pain of losing their kids, especially because 90% of the time, society considers the mother to be the better parent, or most of the time, the mother takes the custody. Like most of the time, she's with the kids. Like in our case, I'm with the kids most of the time, and my ex had the right to see the kids every second weekend and every holidays. That was an amicable decision. But I noticed every time my kids were away at their dad's, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And then when they came back to me, like, I also realized, oh, so that's what my ex-husband goes through when his kids are not with him. And he also talked about it, the emptiness, because a divorce is abrupt, like I said. So one day you have your family here, in our case, 2 adults, 2 kids, and then the next morning you're just there by yourself. It's something that one has to deal with. And we should look at both sides. If the children stay with the mom, there's that void, there's that emptiness for the dad, and we always have to keep that in mind and maybe be more lenient and be more sympathetic. Not forgetting, in most of the cases, 90%, or if not 95%, society assumes that mothers are the best parents or the better parent. Well, I will tell you from my experience, that's not the case. Naturally, biologically, yes, that would make sense, because I mean, we have more bonds to our kids. You carry that child 9 months and you go through the struggles and you develop feelings for them. The love starts from the time they're still in your uterus. But I've seen terrible moms, you know. So bearing a child doesn't automatically make one a good mother, a good parent, you know. A good parent must desire it, must want it. So I do believe that in some cases it is okay, and it's actually the right decision to make, to give custody to their father, or they can have joint custody. Actually, more for joint custody, but I'm saying like the Aufenthaltsrecht, how do you say that in English? Right of stay, I think that's what you call it. The kids can also stay with their dad instead of their mom most of the time, because some mothers are not good mothers, and I've seen that through my scope of work, believe me. So it shouldn't be automatically assumed that children must stay with their mother and then the dad gets only the right to see them. So in some cases, we also have to agree as a society that maybe some children are better off with their dads. Of course, they remain with joint custody and the mom has a right to see the kids, to spend time with them, but also agree that sometimes it's better if the kids stay with their dad. So as a society, we shouldn't look at it anymore in that instance of women are the better parents. I can assure you, through my work experience and life experience, it's never always the case. Speaking of joint custody, in cases where the children have the right of stay at their moms, I would implore the women, ask the women to always be lenient, even if, like, by law here in Germany, for example, that's how I started with my ex. In our case, it was every second weekend and we share the holidays. But we made it in a way that it was a bit flexible. Of course, at the beginning, I kept it strict because, well, like I said, I needed to create a boundary to know that now we're two separate entities. But as time went on, I made sure that my ex could also spontaneously see his kids because, again, he's self-employed. If he said, okay, do you have any plans for this weekend or can I have the kids? I would let him see the kids because, like I said, I realized myself how tough it must be for him to not be with his kids all the time like it used to be when we were married. So look for a solution that is perfect for your family. Don't be so rigid. Don't try to punish the other parent, because at the end of the day, it's not fair. And most of all, always keep in mind the best interests of the kids. Small reminder again, it takes two for a marriage to work. So let's stop the blame game. Let's stop the blame game of someone is divorced or men are dogs or terrible men. No, it's not just men that ask for divorce, and a divorce happens because two people probably failed somewhere or were not compatible. So it takes two. Support both women and men. Just imagine if this was your son, if this was your brother, if this was your daughter. Just have some empathy for both genders. It shouldn't be about gender, okay? Both parents have to be considered. Advice to the men out there: if you're living, for example, in the first world or in Germany in particular, lucky enough, we have the possibility of 50-50% Umgangsrecht. But Umgangsrecht means how often do I get to see my kids? So in Deutschland, in Germany, we have that 50-50, for example, where if you're living close to each other, that kids can get to stay 1 week at one's parents' place and the next week at the other parent's place. Okay? For the men out there, there are two possibilities. If you divorce and, for example, you stay in the same area, not far away from each other, if you really, really are the kind of dad that would love to be present in their children's life, then you can do the 50-50. That is the right of contact, where the 1 week they are at your place, the 1 week they are at a mom's place. But then that means it must be in a way that you are able to take them to school in that week that they are at your place. So it has to be something very amicable, very mutual, and of course, it has to be in the same area. Otherwise, in my case, for example, where there are 300 kilometers between me and my ex, that would be very, very difficult for the kids. They would need two schools. And again, whatever decision you make, how you work about it, always just keep in mind the best interest of your children. Okay, if it is not a situation where you feel it is not necessary to do the 50-50, it is good for the parents, for the kids too, but it also has some disadvantages. You know, it's very confusing for the kids, especially when you're going through a divorce and they have to move from one house to another. So if you're the kind of parent who's like, no, I'll let it go for some time until we find the best solution, then so be it. But always try to keep in mind the best interest of the children. And then alternatively, the usual form of the mom stays with the kids or the dad stays with the kids, and then you get to see them on weekends and holidays. But coming all down to what is the best for our kids, because you always have to keep in mind, children didn't pick to be in this situation. Children didn't even pick to be born. I had this kind of conversation with my kids and they made me laugh my head off. You know, they didn't even choose us as parents. So you really have to keep the best interests at heart. So talking of this topic, why is it important for me to look at both perspectives? Through my experience, through my job also as a social worker, I get to see both sides of the coin, you know, and that's why probably I have more understanding of how all these dynamics work out. So like I said, men, trust yourselves, take the initiative, especially if the mom is not a good mom, apply for custody. It is not like in the, I don't know which year that was, where the men were completely not considered to be fit to be parents. I've seen amazing parents, male parents, that are doing a better job than women. So if you know you're a good parent, if there are good reasons, viable reasons that render the mom not good enough, not fit enough to be the one to stay with the kids, then you can apply for that right. Okay, trust yourselves and the children will thank you, because again, like through my job, I've seen kids that have gone through terrible situations because they are staying with their mom, in which case when we turn the tables around to the dad, the children have a better life. So again, always keep in mind the best interest of the kids. As a social worker, my brothers out there, yeah, so men out there, once you're going through divorce, it is okay to go for therapy. It is okay to work on yourself. I've seen people that have ended up living on the street because they were not able to handle a divorce. I've seen people that have become jobless. I've seen people that have become alcoholics. I've seen people that have taken their lives, unfortunately, because of a divorce. So men, it's not a shame to go for therapy. It's actually a shame if you let yourself spiral down the drain just because you're ashamed to go for divorce. Men, support each other. Talk about your emotions. You're not machines. You're not robots. You're human beings. Mothers, let's raise better men. You know, when they are young, you're like, my children, my boys, my sons. But these are the future men. So let's raise better men. Let's give men room to show their emotions. Let's give men room to show their humanity. Let's give men the opportunity to be human, to cry, to hurt, you know, to even throw a tantrum if they have to, because let's be honest, they're just human, just like us women. So let's stop this taboo of, oh my God, how can he cry? You know, we really have to stop that. And men, take back your power, take back your human right of being able to feel and express emotions. That way it will help you to go through a divorce. Again, you can also look for a hobby or an activity or a self-help group that will help you go through the situation. You can do yoga, you can start doing sports. Do something, just do something to make sure you don't spiral down the drain. As we conclude, I repeat, it's not okay to always be strong. It's not okay to always tell people to be strong. Like I said, they're not machines, they're human beings. One point that I almost forgot is most of the time, there are some men who want to have like the full custody or the full right of contact taken away from the women because, again, like I said, for selfish reasons, they don't want to pay alimony, they don't want to pay child support. But if you are a man and you're doing it for the best of the children, and you really, really are not doing it for selfish reasons, then it should be okay for the woman to pay child support, to pay alimony if the tables were to be turned. And in the cases where the mom is the one that gets to stay with the kids because of reasons best known to you, because in most of the cases, like I said, being that men are most of the time the main breadwinner of the family, you find that the man doesn't even have the time to take care of the kids. You find that the mom is better suited to take care of the kids because kids require time. Look at me in my case. I'm a single mom. I have to drive my kids to all different kinds of hobbies. I have, I don't know, doctor appointments at least every week. Emergencies and all that, and I'm still a working mom. But still, some men cannot handle that, for example. So men, please, if your children are staying with the mom, make sure you pay alimony, make sure you pay child support, because at the end of the day, it's all for the best of your kids. A supported mother is a good mother. If you don't pay child support, your children suffer, especially maybe if the mom is not earning well. But it's also not fair because you brought the kids into this world, so you are supposed to support them. I'm really, really curious to hear from my brothers out there, from the men out there, and of course from the women. What do you think of this? What is your perspective on this, especially looking at the divorce from a man's perspective? And if you're a man that is going through a divorce, I'd be so curious to host you on this channel and maybe hear it from the horse's mouth. What was your divorce experience being a man? My loves, I'm here to inspire, uplift, and empower you. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye.